Good morning. So I am going to start the next lesson for the Odyssey. I mean Oedipus. We are going to read the next part, which is the next episode, which would be after Tiresias leaves and Creon comes in to confront Oedipus about how he defamed him in front of all the witnesses by saying that he was a traitor. He insinuated to all in attendance that Tiresias and Creon were in league together to try to steal the crown of Odysseus. All right, so see this, vile slanderer, thou blurtest out taunts. They were arguing with each other, and that's when the chorus came in and said, "Oh, angry words are no good when we're trying to settle solve this problem. Please stop arguing it." Right here, it seems to us that both the seer and thou, O Oedipus, have spoken angry words. So Oedipus accused Tiresias of not having any power as a prophet, being a prophet, that he's a blind idiot, and said, I think that you might have murdered Laos, and either that or you and Creon, hoping to take over my crown, have made me a scapegoat, and you have trying to take my crown. And then Tiresias says, you are really so far off the mark, right? He says, I serve no man. I'm not Creon's boy, right? He says, you're the one who's blind, right? You don't even know your own lineage. So this is all that he says just before he leaves this big, long speech. And Oedipus tells him to get out in 3 different ways. So then finally Tiresias leaves. He exits Thebes, and Odysseus goes into the palace, and the chorus recaps everything for us. So they say that there's no proof of anything that he said about Creon. The chorus's job is to review what has occurred and make a comment. The chorus asks, how can we challenge the king's good name without proof? So they're saying, Tiresias has said that he is living in infamy, and that he is the one who's wronged. Now, the thing is that Tiresias is supposedly in league with the gods. That Tiresias has the gift of what's it called? Forethought, that he can see into the future, and he knows more than the average man knows. So the chorus is saying, "My God, how can we say this against our wonderful king who we've always loved, even though it's Tiresias who says it?" So this is the strophe and anastrophe reviewing the facts of what's occurred just now. Tiresias is a mortal, a human. How can the things that he says how can they be proven? I find no fault with the king till it's proven beyond a doubt, for he saved us from the Sphinx and helped us out. And then appears Creon, and Creon says, and this is kind of funny because this is like exactly how Mark Antony appears at the how he addresses a crowd at the funeral when he is, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come not to praise Caesar, but to bury him." And here they say, "Friends, countrymen," right? And lend me your ears. Creon calls to the attention of the chorus, the citizens of supplicants. This is not, I think that's a misspelling. He strenuously objects to accusations made by Oedipus against his name. This accusation blasts my name, and I am denounced as a traitor to the state and a liar full of falsehoods to my friends. So Creon arrives angry and says, how dare Oedipus speak to me about me behind my back like this, after, you know, all I was doing was helping him. How, without any proof, he makes these horrible accusations and he blasts my name. Um, because this is my name, because I cannot have another in my life. How may I live without my name? I have given you my soul. Leave me my name. And this is that quote from The Crucible I told you about in class. When we were on Zoom, I told you about a play called The Crucible by Arthur Miller. During the McCarthy era in the 50s, Arthur Miller, who was a American author, was accused of collaborating with communists, and he was called in front of the McCarthy Commission and blacklisted. And that's when he wrote The Crucible. The Crucible is about the Salem witch hunt trials, and he has this guy named Proctor, and this is part of the speech from Proctor. And this is it. Like, if you have a good name and you ruin your good name, I could name a couple of people in the state of Rhode Island who wrecked their good names because they did things that, as a matter of fact, the current head of the Lottery Commission, when he got his job, he said, I care about my name, because the person who was in there before him did things to disparage his name. They thought that he did something which they thought was akin to like stealing. So they kicked him out and they put Auburn in. And when Auburn came in, the current head of the lottery system, he said, I care about my name. So anyway, it's your name. And if you ruin your good last name, you know, there were like mass murderers who you wouldn't want Jeffrey, if your last name was Dahmer, you might give it a second thought, because it was one of the most famous mass murderers in history. Or what was your last name? Was Hitler, you know? So it's in a name, and because it is my name. So Creon says, this is my name, and I feel shamed that I should be accused of being a traitor. He says, Oedipus defamed me by insinuating I plotted with Tiresias to overthrow Oedipus as king and take his crown. Oedipus called me a traitor in front of all the citizens. So, friends, countrymen, I learned King Oedipus hath laid against me a most grievous charge, and come to you protesting. If he deems that I have harmed or injured him in aught by word or deed in this our present trouble, I care not to prolong the span of life, thus ill reputed, for the calumny hits not a single blot, but blasts my name. If by general voice I am denounced false to the state and false to you, my friends, right? And then the chorus says, this taunt, it may be, was blurted out in petulance, not spoken advisedly. So the chorus responds to what Creon just said, saying, hey man, he was angry. Oedipus blurted out his accusation in anger. It was ill-advised comment made in the heat of a moment while he was querulous and impatient with Tiresias. So the chorus is trying to lighten the blow and brush off the horrible words spoken by Oedipus against Creon. Then Creon says, did anyone dare state they believe that I told the seer Tiresias what to say? So is anybody here saying that they believe that I did any dare pretend that it was I who prompted the seer to utter the false charge? And the false charge is that it is the killer is Oedipus. That Oedipus is the murderer of Laius, and he is living now in infamy. And the chorus says, such things were said with what intent we do not know. Were not his wits and vision all astray when upon me he fixed the monstrous charge? I know not. To my sovereign acts I am blind. Sovereign is a king's. They call it your king, yours, your sovereign. But lo, he comes to answer for himself. So now enters Oedipus. And Oedipus is going to say, hey, what are you doing here, guy? How dare you show your face in my kingdom after what you've done? Sirrah, what makest thou here? Dost thou presume to approach my doors, thou braven-faced rogue, my murderer and the flitter of my crown? Come, answer this. Didst thou detect in me some touch of cowardice or witlessness that made thee undertake this enterprise? I seemed forsooth too simple to perceive the serpent stealing on me in the dark, or else too weak to scotch it when I saw. This thou art witless, seeking to possess without a following or friends of the crown, the prize that followers and wealth must win. So he says, what are you doing here? Oedipus now extends his accusations by confronting his brother-in-law Creon with cruel epithets. And so he's now seeing his wife's brother, Creon, and to his face, throwing out the same charges. You thought me stupid that I would not notice a serpent slinking around me in the dark? What made you lay a plot like that against me? Did you think a criminal would not go punished because he is my kinsman? Because you're my brother-in-law, you thought that you could get away with this? Attend me, thou hast spoken, 'tis my turn to make reply. Then having heard me, judge. So attend me means, okay, now you listen, I've listened to you, right? So then Oedipus says, thou art glib of tongue, but I am slow to learn of thee. I know too well your venomous hate. He's already called him a serpent. So Oedipus already called Creon a serpent. Now he is calling a venomous serpent full of hate. First, I would argue out this very point. Oh, argue not that thou art not a rogue. Again, here's an example of stithomythia, where there's a rapid back and forth argumentation coined in Greek drama. So this is like typical Greek drama. If thou dost count a virtue stubbornness, unschooled by reason, thou art much astray. If thou dost hold a kinsman may be wronged, and no pains follow, thou art much to seek. Right? He says, so you think that you can do this and get away with it? Therein thou judgest rightly, but this wrong that thou allegest tells me what it is. So he says, what is the allegation? Tell me what you're alleging. Didst thou or didst thou not advise me to speak to the priest? Yeah, I stood here and to it. I did it. Tell me, how long is it since Laios was killed? Since Laios? I follow not your drift. He's saying, how many years ago was Laios killed? By violent hands, when was he spirited away? And then dimnessed many years gone. Did the same prophet then pursue his craft? Was Tiresias, when Laius was originally killed, was he a prophet? Yes. Yes, skilled as now, and no less in great reputation. Did he, at that time, ever glance at me and make accusations at me about that I was the killer of Laios? Not to my knowledge, not when I was by. But no search and no inquisition was made. So there you had Laius killed. You had the great prophet Tiresias hanging around. And at that time, did that prophet say Oedipus was guilty? No? Well, why then, when the king was killed, was there no search made for the murderer? Surely full quest was made, but nothing learned. Why failed the seer at that time to tell a story? So why is Tiresias now accusing me, but did not accuse me at that time? I don't know. Not knowing, hold my tongue. This much thou knowest and canst surely tell. What meanest thou? All I know is what I declare. But for the prompting, never had the seer ascribed to me the death of Laius. So never before, until you told him to come and talk to me, did he ever say I was the guilty party. Here's the evidence. My evidence is you told me to call forth a prophet. Before I called Tiresias, he had never looked upon me as complicit. Now he accuses me, just as you told me to come to bring him forth to get information about the crime. If so he knowest best, but I would put thee to the question in my turn. Question and prove me murder if thou canst. Then let me ask you this. Did you marry my sister? A fact so plainly I cannot deny. And as that consort queen, she shares the throne. So you married my sister Jocasta and became king, and you share the throne with my sister. I grant her freely all her heart desires. And you, with you twain, I share the triple rule. So Creon says, we are a triumvirate. We have three people ruling Thebes, the three of us. Yea, and it proves thee a false friend. Not so. If thou wouldest reason with thyself as I with myself, first I bid thee think, would any mortal choose a troubled reign of terrors rather than the secure repose if the same power were given to him? So he's saying, you married my sister, and you and I share the responsibilities of ruling the kingdom, but you do all the work, and I am just free of obligation hanging around the background. Why the heck would I want your job and with all the terrors and troubles of reigning like a king, right? Which seems like a very reasonable question, doesn't it? So in other words, I have all the benefits. Why would I want the work? As for me, I have no natural craving for the name of king, preferring to do kingly deeds. And so thinks every sober-minded man. Now all my needs are satisfied through thee, and I have naught to fear, but were I king, my acts would oft run counter to my will. So as king, I'd be full of responsibilities and some of the things I don't want to do. Why would I want to be king? Uh, what would induce me to want the title of king? How could a title then have charms for me, above the sweets of boundless influence? I am not so infatuate as to grasp the shadow when I hold the substance fast. Now all men cry, Godspeed, wish me well, and every suitor seeks to gain my ear. If he would hope to win the grace from me, why should I leave the better, choose the worse? That would be sheer madness, and I'm not mad. No such ambition ever tempted me. I have no ambition to be king and have your job, is what he's saying, right? And then, nor would I have a share in such intrigue. And if thou doubt me, first to Delphi go, there certain if my report was true of the god's answer. Next, investigate if the seer and I plotted or conspired, and if so, sentence me to death. So he's saying, I want you to do two things. One, go to Delphi, the gods, and ask if they think I'm guilty of this crime. And then two, do your investigation of Tiresias, right? And ask Tiresias if, ask the gods if I'm guilty of conspiring with Tiresias and seeking to get your crown. Also investigate Tiresias. See, and if you find me guilty, if I am guilty, I want death. Sentence me to death. Not by thy voice alone, but mine and thine. But condemn me not without appeal on bare suspicion. 'Tis not right to adjudge bad men at random good or good men bad. I would as lief a man should cast away the thing he counts most precious, his life, as spurn a true friend. Thou wilt learn in time the truth, for time alone reveals the just. A villain is detected in a day. So he's saying it's very easy to find somebody who's guilty, and all we have to do is give it a little time and we'll know. To one who walketh warily in his words commend themselves. Swift counsels are not sure. When with swift strides the stealthy plotter stalks, I must be quick too with my counterplot. To wait on his onset passively for him is sure success, for me a sure defeat. What then thy will? To banish me from the land? I would not have thee banished, no, but dead. That men may mock the wages, envy. Have you ever heard this? The wages of war, and he's saying the wages of treachery and being a traitor is death. I sentence you to death for being a traitor and seeking to take my throne. I sentence you to death instead of banishment because your punishment will show others what happens to those who commit evil because they are envious, right? So the wages of sin are death. Oh, that's biblical, right? The wages of sin is death. So anyway, that men may mark the wages envy reaps. You reap what you sow, right? So wages envy reaps means that the price, your bad deed of wanting to be the king, what is the punishment, what it reaps. Okay. I see thou wilt not yield nor credit me. None but a fool would credit such as thou. Thou art not wise. Wise for myself at least. Why not for me too? Why for a knave? Suppose thou lackest sense. Yet kings must rule, not if they rule ill. Oh, my Thebans, hear him. Thy Thebans? Am I not a Theban too? And then the chorus comes in, cease princes. Lo, there comes, and none too soon, Jocasta from the palace, who so fit as peacemaker to reconcile your feud. So the chorus isn't in on this stuff where the the two kings in the triumvirate are arguing. Creon and Oedipus. And then Jocasta walks in. She comes in and she says, I've told you this, that usually there were three people on stage in the in a Greek drama. You know, another thing that's really interesting here is in Shakespeare, there are 420 announced entrances in his plays. That means before somebody's on stage, it's announced that they're arriving. And here, before Jocasta's on stage, see this here, enter Jocasta, the chorus is said, oh, look, here comes Jocasta. In a lo, here comes, all right, I'm going to put that as an annotation because later down below, I put in an annotation that says it's an announced entrance. And this is interesting to me because in Shakespeare, as I say, I know there are 420 announced entrances in Shakespearean plays. An announced entrance is before somebody's on stage. That means that before the person is on stage, it's somebody on stage announces they're about to arrive. And this will happen in another minute as we read a little further down. Jocasta enters and says, misguided princes, why have ye upraised this word and wrangle? Are ye not ashamed while the whole land lies stricken? In other words, we're under the horror of a plague, and you two are standing here screaming at each other, thus to voice your private injuries. Go in, my lords, go home, my brother, and forbear to make a public scandal of a petty grief, right? So for goodness sakes, why are you two arguing so loudly? And then Creon says, my royal sister, Oedipus, my lord, hath bid me choose, or dread alternative, an outlaw's exile or a felon's death. Yes, lady, I have caught him practicing against my royal person his vile acts. May I never speed but dead accursed if I in any way am guilty of this charge. Believe him, I abjure thee, Oedipus, first for some oath's sake, then for mine, and then for the elders' sake who wait on thee. So he says, oh my God, he is solemnly sworn he's innocent, and I'm begging you for my sake and for all the elders here to not to do this to him. And the chorus says, hearken, king, reflect, we pray thee, but not be stubborn, but relent. Say to what should I consent? Respect a man whose probity and troth are known to all and now confirmed by oath. Dost know thy grace thou cravest? So they're saying troth is promise, right? Like a marriage troth. So anyways, he's given a oath of honor that he's not guilty. Dost thou know that what grace thou cravest? Yes, I know. And then declare it then, and make thy meaning plain. Brand not a friend whom babbling tongues assail. Let not suspicion against his oath prevail. Well, there's a nice little rhyme. So in other words, there's gossip that he did something wrong, your friend, but don't let it prevail, right? Listen to his oath that he's innocent. Methink that in seeking this, ye seek in very soothe my death or banishment. So Oedipus is saying, you're agreeing with him and you're thinking, I'm the one who should be dead or banished? No, by the leader of the host divine. Witness thou, son, such thought was never mine. We never thought that. Humblest, unfriended may I perish, if ever I such a wish did cherish. But oh my heart and desolate, musing on our stricken state, doubly fallen should discord grow twixt you twain to crown our woe. So on top of all our other, to crowning woe, a crown means putting more woes on top of our current woe. Here we have the stricken state. That's our country, Thebes, is hit by the plague, and now doubly we fall because of this discord that's growing. So between you two, twist you twain means between you two. So this crowns our woe. This just tops it all. Well, let him go, no matter what it costs me, or certain death or shameful banishment. For your sake I relent, not his, and him. Where'er he be, my heart shall still abhor. So I don't care wherever he is. All right, fine. Don't worry about death or banishment, but wherever he is, my heart's going to dislike him. Thou art as sullen in thy yielding mood as in thine anger thou wast turbulent. So you're like being crybaby in this current mood where you're saying, okay, let it happen, as you were angry when you were turbulent. So such tempers justly plague themselves the most. Let me in peace and get thee gone. Leave me in peace and get thee gone, by thee misjudged, but justified by these. So Creon leaves, and he's not going to be sentenced to death, but he says, you're just like a moody baby, right? And then the chorus says, lady, need endures thy consort, wherefore longer here delay? Jocasta, tell me first how rose the fray. So she says, how did this argument begin, right? How rose the fray that in Romeo and Juliet, Lady Montague says, where's Romeo today? Right, glad I am he wasn't in this fray. It means a fight argument. And that's right after there was that big first scene where Gregory and Samson and Romeo and Juliet caused a big fight in the street. Rumors breed unjust suspicion, and injustice rankles sore. Were both at fault? Both. Uh, what was the tale? Ask me no more. The land is sore distressed. 'Twere better sleeping ills to leave to rest. And then Oedipus says, strange counsel, friend. I know thee meanest me well, and yet wouldst mitigate and blunt my zeal. So that's very strange advice. I know you're meaning well, but how are you going to mitigate my my feelings? King, I say it once again, witness were I proved insane, if lightly put away, thee my country's prop and stay, pilot who in danger sought to a quiet haven brought our distressed state. And now who can guide us right but thou? Do you know, I pointed out to those in my Romeo and Juliet ninth grade classes that Romeo all the time says, I'm a pilot at sea and in rough weather, and I'm looking for a safe harbor. And he refers to Juliet as the light that's a safe, directing him to the safe harbor. And here they're doing the same thing. They're saying the country, you're the pilot for our country, you're at the helm, and you have to show us how to get to a quiet haven. Take this the state of Thebes that's in a bad condition, and bring us to a quiet haven. So how are you going to guide us, right? And Jocasta says, let me too, I assure you, King. O King, what cause has stirred this unrelenting wrath? Now, here I want to tell you, unrelenting wrath is constant anger. Here I want to tell you that Jocasta is about to become the third witness, or second witness. She's the one who's going to offer up some evidence. Her husband was Laius, and she knows something about the murder of Laius, and she's about to offer up the evidence. And so she's saying, what is this fighting about? Why are you arguing with Creon? I will, for thou art more to me than these. Lady, the cause is Creon and his plots. But what provoked the quarrel? Make it clear. He points me out as Laius's murderer, right? So she says, what made you angry? What started the fight? And then Oedipus says, he points me out as Laius's murderer. He says, I'm guilty of the murder. Of who? Of his own knowledge or by some report? So is he calling you the murderer? He's too cunning to commit himself and makes a mouthpiece of a knavish seer. So he says, oh, he's such a cunning guy that instead of just saying right to my face, I think you're the one who killed Laius, he uses the knavish seer is Tiresias. I don't know if you remember somebody calling you a villain or a knave. A knave is a low-class person. So you're saying a low-class prophet. And that his mouthpiece, the person who's making the accusations is Tiresias. So the Navis seer is Tiresias he's talking about. So he's calling Tiresias a name there. And he says, Creon's too scared to say it himself, so he uses the Navis seer to say it for him. And then Jocasta says, this is ridiculous. Then thou mayest ease thy conscience on that score. So you know what? I get this is totally ridiculous. I can tell you that you don't have anything to worry about. Listen, and I'll convince you that no man has scot a lot in the prophetic art. Here's the proof. Okay, so here she is as the third witness with her proof. An oracle once came to Laos. I will not say 'twas from the Delphic god himself, but from his ministers, declaring he was doomed to perish at the hand of his son, a child that should be born to he and me. Right? So here Jocasta is the second person to offer testimony to help bring in evidence and clues about who killed Laos. Jocasta says Tiresias is no prophet. He's wrong in his assertions, and Jocasta can prove it by offering the facts she knows surrounding the murder of Laius. She says there was no oracle who came to Laius and told him it was his fate that he should die a victim at the hands of his own son, a son to be born by Laius and Jocasta. But the oracle was wrong because Laius was killed by robbers at a place where the three roads meet, at a crossroads. As his son, just after his birth, King Laius pierced his ankle. So when Jocasta had a baby boy, Laius, in order to avert the prophecy, took the baby, pierced his ankles and put a pin holding them together so he could just carry the kid by his back legs, and had him cast down a hillside to die. So you see, the oracle's wrong, and the son did not kill his father. The prophecy proved false. The thing Laius feared, death by his son's hands, never came to pass. So false were the oracles, and just so. So Tiresias is false, the oracles were false, and their words should be given no heed. And there's your proof that you don't even have to listen to Tiresias. If the oracles are wrong, Tiresias can be wrong. No, Laius was, so at least report affirmed, was murdered on a day by highwaymen, not natives, at a spot where the three roads met. Not no natives, that means not by somebody from Thebes, it was by from alien stranger. As for the child, it was but 3 days old when Laius, its ankles pierced and pinned together, and then was cast away by others on a trackless mountainside. And so Apollo brought it to not to pass. The child should be the father's murderer. So the whole thing what Apollo predicted didn't come. Or the dread terror found accomplishment, and Laius was slain by his own son. Such was the prophet's horoscope. So all the things that were seen in the horoscope of what was going to occur did not occur, and there's your proof. O king, regard it not. Whatever the god deems fit to search, himself unaided will reveal. And then Oedipus says, what memories, what wild tumult in my soul come over me, lady, as I hear you speak. So he goes, that's awful. The things that you're saying is terrible. I can't even listen to you speak. What meanest thou? What has shocked and startled thee? Methought I heard you say that Laius was killed in the meeting of three roads. Did you just say Laius was killed at a crossroads? What did Laius look like? Give me his description, right? So now he's saying, oh my God, I didn't know this. This is new information that he was killed at a crossroads. So ran the story, and that's current still. Where did it happen? Just I'll know the place. Phocis, the land is called. The spot is where the branch roads from Delphi and Doulos meet. And how long has it been since they fell? 'Twas but a brief while before you were proclaimed king. Our country's ruler, what the news was brought. Oedipus asks Jocasta when Laius was murdered, and Jocasta replies that it's just before your arrival here in Thebes. And then Oedipus screams, "Oh my God!" That's what Zeus means here. "What hast thou willed me to do?" So now Oedipus is beginning to put the dots together. "What is it, Oedipus? What moves thee? Ask me not. Tell me, build and height of Laius. What did he look like?" So he says, "Tell me what Laius looked like when he died." Oedipus says, "What did Laius look like? How tall was he? How old was he?" Jocasta replies, "He had same great hair, but otherwise looked just like you." "Tall as he was, and his hair was lightly strewn with silver, and was not unlike thee in form. Oh, woe is me! Methinks me unwittingly I laid but a dread curse on myself." "What are you saying?" "When I look upon thee, my king, I tremble." And she goes, "What is it? You're making me really scared." "'Tis a dread presentiment that in the end the seer will prove not blind. One further question to resolve my doubt. I quail but ask, I will answer all. Had he but few attendants, or a train of armed retainers with him, like a prince?" "There were 5 in all, and one of them a herald. Laius was in a mule cart who rolled. Alas, 'tis true, as noonday here. But now, lady, who carried this report to Thebes?" So he's asking her how many people were in with the group with Laius when he was killed, and who escaped and came here to tell the story of what occurred. "A serf, a sole survivor, returned. Happily, he is at hand in this house." "No, for as soon as he returned and found thee reigning in the stead of Laius slain, he clasped his hand and supplicated me to send him to the Alps and pastures, where he might be farthest from the sight of Thebes, and so I sent him. 'Twas an honest slave, and well deserved some better recompense." So she says, all he ever asked of me was, when he came and saw you were king, like, get me the heck out of here and put me in a far distant mountaintop. "Fetch him at once. I fain would see this man." So Oedipus asked that the one sole survivor of the attack of Laius's caravan at the crossroad be called in to testify about what happened, what he saw. "He shall be brought, but wherefore do you summon him? Lady, I fear my tongue has overrun discretion. Therefore, I would question him." So he's saying, I think I've said things that I shouldn't have said, and that we've got to question him to bring out the remainder of the truth. "Well, he shall come, but may not I too claim to share the burden of your heart, king?" So she says, "What is it that is bothering you?" And before we go into this great big speech here, we're going to call this lesson quits, because it's going on. Like, I don't want to ever overburden you with a lesson. And this was a good lesson. And so I'm going to stop the screen share, and I'm going to stop the lesson. And we will meet for lesson, I think it's 5. I think this is 5. We'll meet for lesson 6. Have a good rest of the day.